Just telling you straight up, to off. If you don't want to listen to a lore podcast, don't put us on.
Welcome to the official Unofficial Sea of Thieves podcast, a podcast dedicated to Sea of Thieves and other rare games, but mainly Sea of Thieves. Today we are discussing Adventure 7, A Siren's Prize. This adventure starts a new arc that is all about the Ancients, Flameheart and the Sirens. It feels we are back on track with some of the storylines that started in Season 4, and we also got a heap of lore to discuss. And who better to discuss this with than my favorite co-host?
Hello, me old chums. It's me, AShinyRay, again. Sick of me at this point, but we'll see what happens.
Not yet. We'll do a vote. We'll do the vote for a new podcast host, and we'll see what happens.
I'll definitely playthrough or Logan's going to win out over me.
Yeah, you might be right. So before we go into the main discussion, I want to remind our listeners that they can financially support this channel if they so wish, because keeping the podcast alive is costing us more than we gain. So if you want to support us, the best way is using super thanks. But if you want something in return, you can also buy our podcast poster. And yes, it's finally finished. You had to wait for it. We had to wait for it, but it was worth it. And I don't do this very often, but for those that are watching this on YouTube, you can have a look at the design. It's on the screen right now. It looks amazing. So yeah, if you want to help the podcast out, you can buy this beautiful poster or you can use super thanks. Please help if you're able to do so. But like we always say, you don't need to do it. We'll keep on doing the podcast anyways.
The sooner you do it, the less time we spend moaning about this. So give us your fucking money already.
I mean, I guess as soon as we start making a profit, we can say, all right, we'll stop with this announcement. But that day is not there yet.
No, not profit. We're breaking even. As soon as we're breaking
even. All right, yeah. Yes. As soon as we break even, exactly.
So do it.
Some aggressive marketing right here.
You're like Bob Geldof, except it's not Live Aid. It's it's live AShinyRay and Captain Blubber.
Oh yeah, and it worked, by the way, that him being aggressive. Indeed. Anyways, normally we do the main discussion, but before that we're going to do a message in a bottle real quick. So this question is from Insanity Chan, and he's asking us if we want to elaborate a little bit on this adventure because he doesn't understand what we were doing and he doesn't really understand the lore surrounding it. And that's what we're here for. That's why we do this podcast. So I know we normally go cannonballs deep into the lore, but sometimes it's nice to take a step back and put everything in perspective. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So, Insanity Chan, this adventure is actually a start of a new arc. So all the stuff with the Dark Brethren, that's on hold right now. We're diving back into the story with Bell and the Ancients and Flameheart. So this story of this adventure actually starts with the cinematic trailer where we see Bell going through some books that are in Stitch's Gym hideout, and there she finds a prophecy of the Herald of the Flame that will announce the resurrection of Flameheart. And she is trying to prevent that, and that's what this adventure is all about. To help her in her quest, Bell also asks for aid from the Ancients, and how the Ancients came to the Sea of Thieves again, we'll explain a bit later in this podcast. So let me give you I hope you're caught up with that, and I'm going to give you a summary of this adventure right now. So we meet Bell on Plunder Valley. There she is accompanied by two Ancients. Those are not memories or those are not phantoms, those are ghosts. So they're real people, just like the Pirate Lord, only, in ghost form. There she tells us a bit later, we don't know it now, but later in the adventure she tells she's there actually to put a stop to Flameheart's resurrection. She wants to do this by securing the soul of the warrior. And to get this soul, we need to find 3 artifacts that are later revealed to be 3 pieces of a skull. And these pieces can be found in 3 different shrines. They were brought to the shrines by the Sirens. So they used to be ancient shrines. The ancients used to use those buildings, but now they're dragged down below, and the Sirens rule there. So they brought those pieces to the shrines. Why? We don't know. And let's see. And when we bring all the skulls back, Bell uses a ritual We have a big battle because the Reapers, they want to prevent this, obviously, because they want, Flamar to be resurrected. But the ritual succeeded, and the soul of the warrior that was presumably in the skull finds its way to the Sea of the Damned to be, stored there for later use. And that also ends the adventure. So, did I get the gist of this?
Yeah, spot on, as per usual. I know you definitely triple check this before we cover this, because I've never gone, no, Blubber, you're wrong. You've got it completely wrong, mate.
Yeah, sometimes I miss some information, so it's always good to ask and check. So I hope that also answers your question, Insanity Chan. If you're still confused about the lore and about what this adventure is and what we actually did, listen to this podcast, obviously, but you can always put it in the comments. We always read it all, and if you post a question, we always answer it too. So, now to the main discussion. Did we like this adventure?
I loved it. It's my favourite adventure so far. And everyone knows I have this habit of saying this is the best thing and this is the best thing. But so far, a Siren's Prize, or the Siren's Prize, I think they changed the title halfway through, is the best adventure we've had so far.
Yeah, I also really liked it. It's a bit weird because I didn't really like the last adventure, and that's kind of funky because we go to the Sea of the Damned, and you think, oh, this is cool. We always wanted to return, but it just felt disappointing for me. And this one is also a lot of reusage of content. Yet I'm not bothered by this because we don't really go to the shrines all that often. Plus, this time we do get a lot of lore things, thanks to all those tablets, and we both are really into the lore, and it's nice to read all of that.
I think Hunter's Cry, not to rag on it any longer, but it's more style than substance, whereas this is more substance than style. And if I had to pick between the two, at the moment, is substance is what I want.
Yeah, indeed. And it also feels that we're learning more of the world, and you didn't really have that with the previous adventure. We didn't learn any new things.
No, I just felt like Hunter's Cry arc, or sorry, I should say Lost Sands, Forsaken Hunter, and Hunter's Cry was just a bit of a Merrick tangent. And you did have a good start of Lost Sands, and then it was like the Dark Brethren are back, and they're back, and they kill Merrick, and you're like, what was the point of that? It feels like that could have been done next year, but I suppose it loops in with Merrick's sort of character arc and how he's going to help defeat Flameheart in the future, or try to defeat Flameheart.
Yeah, maybe. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm not opposed to the arc at all. I thought it was. I had a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, this adventure, this is more like it. This is what I want. Also, you can get some loot as well. That's also very welcome. That also helped because you spend a lot of time sailing and spending your time in the seas with these adventures. So it's always nice if you had the opportunity to get some loot and to fight for it as well. We had to sink some people's right when we did it.
Yeah, we did. It was fun though. We enjoyed it, but not everyone would enjoy that. To be fair.
That's also true.
Mm-hmm.
Did you like the reuse of the shrines?
Any excuse to return to the Sunken Kingdom, even if it's not necessarily changing it a whole lot. We did have more PvE encounters in there. So yeah, I like the reuse of the shrines. I wish Rare did it more, like new commendations or a faction or tall tales to do with them. I just really like the Sunken Pearl, and season 4 was, I think, an underrated season. I think the design of the Siren Kingdom is beautiful. The music's fantastic. Well, when is it not fantastic? And I think these dungeons at the bottom of the sea are just underutilized at the moment. So yeah, any excuse for me, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I mean we have so many repeatable voyage in Sea of Thieves, but the shrines are not really repeatable. So it's nice to return for sure. Yeah,
I think a big problem, I'll say this briefly, with the Siren Shrines is that they're a treat to explore and the loot's quite decent. It's just that unless you have someone on the ship literally not playing the game and just staring at the horizon for 10, 15 minutes, the risk is not worth the reward. And this is something that's really important in Sea of Thieves, is that if the balance between the two of them gets thrown off, then activity is just left to die, and that's what's happened with the Siren Kingdom. Treasuries aren't too bad. I think the shrines definitely suffer from that, especially if you don't have a bounty for a Breath of the Sea.
Yeah, I agree to an extent. Because if you usually do a shrine I don't mind staying behind and just alternate with it. But this time with the adventure, everybody wants to go down, obviously. So that's a bit of a difference indeed. But like I said before, I don't mind being the one in the crow's nest. Yeah.
Yeah, usually you go make yourself some tea and we get sunk. Sorry, dinner. You go make yourself dinner and it's like, oh, we're getting attacked. I'm in the kitchen. You guys need to come back. And we're like, oh, God.
I didn't know we were getting so personal today.
It's all right. You can get me back later in the podcast.
I'm going to give Captain Logan a call now.
Fine, I'll give Placer a call. I'll make my own podcast with blackjack and hookers.
All right. So let's dive into the lore. Because normally I write some topics down that we discuss, and there's a lot of lore as well. But this time there was so much interesting stuff that I just want to go over all the tablets because that's where the main part of the lore comes from, and we do have a lot to say about these. So let's start with the first one, and I'm starting with the tablets that are in the Shrine of Ocean's Fortune. So these are all legends about the warrior and the warrior mythical entity from the time of the ancients. And the first story tells about what the role of warrior entails. So in times of peace, the warrior trained others, but in times of war, he was there to fight for the ancients. We also learn that there was one great warrior to begin with, and then later other warriors took that title. So there was always one person in the tribe that had the title of warrior. And one of those warriors fell in love with the Sea Queen, as we know from season 4. And I think after that, another warrior is the one we meet in the Sunken Kingdom that was locked away with the curse. I'm forgetting the name of the curse, but the blue curse.
That's the Sunken Sorrow.
Yeah, indeed, that one. So, how do you feel about this bit of lore, like the Great Warrior and the warriors that followed?
Yeah, so originally the theory was, or not the theory, based on how you interpret the journals from the Sunken Kingdom, it seems to imply the Great Warrior is the Sea King. This sort of comes a bit out of left field and confirms they're two different people, which is a notion that's not really. I mean, it could be hinted at in the Sunken Kingdom journals, but it's not really clear. And the use of the Great Warrior and the Sea Queen in one of Suds' journals and Mercia's as well sort of implies they're the same person, but that's obviously not the case. So I feel a bit blindsided by that one. And I know a few people in the community aren't happy with that change, so to speak, whether it was always planned. I'm not sold on it yet. I'm interested to see how this is going to play out, because the fact that introducing the Great Warrior and the Sea King as two different people makes you wonder how that dynamic's going to come into play in later adventures. How do you feel about it?
Oh, I kind of like it. I think it is a little bit of a retcon because they called the warrior, they fell in love with the Sea King Great Warrior before, right?
It's strongly implied that the Great Warrior is the only warrior discussed there, but is never like, you wouldn't know otherwise unless this tablet confirmed it for you, if that makes sense.
Okay, so there's no Great Warrior in the text then?
Yeah, well, they do discuss the Great Warrior as a legend. Do you want me to read the specific one?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
sure.
you'll see where I'm coming from then. It's a good thing I've got this bookmarked. See, this is the work I go through to make videos, guys. I bookmark things. So this is Journal 2, my friends, and it's found in the Shrine of Tribute written by Suds. And it reads, Tricky, 3 there were, 1 which took some clever thinking to uncover. Water can flow and water can crash. That's referring to the puzzle. But find them I did, and when they revealed to me... But find them I did, and then they were revealed to me. My friends, even here beneath the waves, they whisper to me and tell me their precious secrets. The truth about the Great Warrior and the Sea Queen, not just stories, but real ancient man and merfolk woman, with a love that could destroy both their worlds.
Oh, yeah. I do get where you're coming from. That is, I would say, that is the Great Warrior, obviously.
Yeah, and then you've got one with Mercia as well. So this one's number 2, the warrior, and that's found in the Shrine of Hungering. And it reads, as I've travelled from island to island, I've seen images of a warrior holding a spear. He's mostly shown vanquishing animals and sometimes with a bird. I've often wondered if he was a real person or a folk tale designed to instill virtues into those who saw or heard of it. It was the merfolk who revealed the truth to me. He was an ancient who fell in love with the Sea Queen, no less. Not only that, but she returned his love.
Yeah, that's weird. It does feel like a retcon. It does feel like originally there was only one warrior, and now with this adventure they decided no, we had the Great Warrior that was a legend, and then we had the warrior title that was passed on in the ancient tribe.
Yeah, it's really strange. Like, actually reading those out loud, it does read exactly like the Great Warrior is the Sea King.
Yeah,
Especially
it
in
does.
context of discussing the story with the Sea Queen, and the Sea Queen, the Siren Queen at this point corroborates the story and says that he was an ancient as well, and they did turn him into a siren, or they did turn him into a Sea King.
Yep, indeed.
I wonder if it's a retcon or maybe a bit of iffy writing, or just a whole idea of unreliable narration, because I guess the modern day characters don't really know what happened because it's a legend.
Yeah, maybe some miscommunication or a human error in the text. That's what I'm leaning on, or a retcon. Yeah.
There is a quick sort of, I guess, almost like correction from Mercia. So in the Journal 3, The Warrior Unmasked, it says, "This warrior is not the hero I first took him for. His love for the Sea Queen was so all-consuming that he was willing to try anything to be by her side." So it sort of says, like, that could be implied that they're not the same person, but then she goes on to say that his love, meaning the Great Warrior. So yeah, it's just really confusing.
It is really confusing, yes. And later on, we also get a tablet that explains that the lover of the Sea Queen was not the Great Warrior, but someone who held that title at the time. And those are conflicting journals. It's simply how it is. So yeah, either retcon or human mistake. That's where I put it. But let's get back to the legends, because one of the first legends we read about, and this is the second tablet, talks about the birth of the Great Warrior. And he cried so loud that the setting sun briefly rose once more to learn who made this great commotion. And apparently, this legendary warrior can grow really fast. He turned from infant to boy in a manner of a night, and he had a hunger in himself that he wanted to satisfy, and he fought a mighty boar. It charged from the woods towards the warrior, eager to trample him, but the boy grabbed the ferocious beast by its twin horns and tossed it straight into the cooking pot. Very first week, threw it in the cooking pot. Had a great feast, but he only ate a few bites because the fight itself had sated him. So what do you make of this legend?
Well, I'm going to say it for both of us because we both agree. One thing that boars don't have horns, they have tusks, which you're very pissed off about. That's not mine.
It's so weird. Like, maybe it's a mystical being that it's called a boar, but it's not a boar how we see it, but maybe what the ancients called a boar, and it's a different creature altogether that does have horns.
Possibly.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense of it because I think it's a mistake. should have been tusks, but
no. On a more serious note, it does sound like the whole satiation of hunger through battle and fighting draws a parallel with another character in the modern day Sea of Thieves. It's a really weird thing to include in there. It's very specific, I think, especially given the sort of context of Heart of Fire as a novel and how they've described Flameheart in sort of extended media as well, like on the Top Drums card and the sort of character profile on the website. So, yeah, it's strange. I like the text, though. It does sound like a load of bullshit, but, it's a legend and it has meaning. So there's obviously a point to the story, but I guess we don't have the context for it completely at the moment.
Yeah, I guess so. And you're right. I was also getting Flameheart vibes when I read that tablet. The other tablet, the one after that, also explains a legend of the Great Warrior. And this one talks about Many Arms, which is a daughter of the Old Mother, which the Great Warrior defeated. Below the waves, he snatched many arms and dragged him into the palace. And the ancient king, took pity and kept the beast as a pet for many years. So I thought this was really interesting because there was always speculation about multiple krakens, and we know there were multiple krakens in the past. But to have it named, to put another name to a kraken, is I don't know, could be foreshadowing for something. What do you make of it?
Going back to the multiple kraken thing, I haven't given Athena's Fortune another read through recently, but I literally could not find a source saying that's the last kraken. So I don't know who's
Okay.
propagated that. Could be me. I don't remember doing that. But yeah, I can't find a actual like verbatim source for that or even implication. So I think it's a bit of like a what you call it effect. What's it called? A Mandela effect with Sea of Thieves lore, and it's just been propagated and passed around as fact.
Yeah, maybe. Like I was also really heavy on the fact that there was only one kraken. But if I'm being honest, like I've heard so many stories now of multiple krakens that I'm like forgotten how I believed that in the first place. So I mean, there can be multiple krakens. I think maybe it originated because there was only one kraken on the sea we saw in the beginning of the game. But still, that is probably the kraken of the Siren Queen. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's either the Siren Queen one or it could be the one we fight, but it makes more sense in the context of the lore for it to be the Siren Queens. Because
So
it was a
in
pet,
this day,
wasn't it? So it was
it
almost like
was a pet.
domesticated.
It was a pet, and that's really interesting, that terminology, because the king, the ancient king, also took the beast as a pet.
You don't think that's referring to the Sea King, do you?
No, I don't. But it's interesting because they chained Old Mother. Apparently, she was too dangerous. They chained her, to the depths, because she couldn't be defeated. But then this other kraken, you're like, oh no, that one is cool. Let's keep that one as a pet.
The ancients
So
are hypocrites, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
The Sea
But
Queen's like, we're not allowed to worship Megs and Krakens, and the ancient king's like, no, you're not. This is my kingdom. I'm gonna have a pet. You can't have one.
Maybe he had quarrels with his wife about it, and she was, no, we already have a turtle.
We already have a boar, but the Great Warrior threw it in a cooking pot. It will help us build those statues at Shores of Gold. I mean, Tribute Peak. I mean, whatever we call it.
But to come back to the Kraken, there's another connection with Krakens, because when we look at the cinematic trailer again, the heart puzzle over there, you use it for one of the older Tall Tales. I say older Tall Tales, still one of the last that came out, for the Heart of Fire Tall Tale. But in the trailer, it was set to different runes, and those runes translate to Kraken, ship, and resurrection. And I know this because you told me that. But do you think there's a hint to Old Mother being resurrected?
Possibly, or maybe in the Sea of the Damned, should we get to visit there again. Or I've seen Mr. Falcor suggest that Kraken ship resurrection is referring to the Silver Blade, because it was the ship we fought the Kraken on. So it could have a number of meanings, but it's it's deliberate placement of those runes, I think.
Yeah, I don't really buy into the Silver Blade thing. But do you think we will get to see Old Mother in any way in the future?
Yeah, I think Old Mother might be used as a way to sort of reveal how the ancients are, and sort of maybe show the fact that binding of Old Mother was quite a cruel thing to do in a memory. Or if we do have a Sea of the Damned expansion, Old Mother will be the Kraken that attacks us as a sort of emergent event. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Sort of the memory of Old Mother comes and like slaps us about. That'd be cool as revenge.
Because we had the mention of Old Mother, I think, for the first time in Athena's Fortune. And Chris Alcock wrote that before the game came out, I believe. Like he already started writing it. So it could be an idea of himself that he just put in there, and that developers took, maybe we can do something in there with Old Mother in the future. And slowly we're getting more mentions of this Kraken. And now again in this adventure, another mention of Old Mother. So Maybe they're trying to tell us something.
Yes, maybe they are. Final boss of Sea of Thieves.
I
Not Hit Reg. Old mother.
it's all right. So the next legend is this one. I thought was really interesting. The Great Warrior still wants to satisfy his thirst for battle, and he wants to find a worthy opponent. And to find this, he goes to Patient Turtle, which is also a legend of the ancients. Is also a constellation, I believe. And he asks the Patient Turtle for a worthy opponent. And the solution is, well, you got to fight your reflection. And so he does. He fights his reflection for 10 days and nights, and then returns to Patient Turtle, claiming victory. And sure enough, the warrior's face no longer stared back at him from the sea. His reflection had fled, and Patient Turtle declared the warrior's training complete and went back to sleep. So this legend, it feels there's so much symbolism in it. I just can't put my finger on it. Can you?
I couldn't, and someone in my Discord called Finn, and Finn is a new member, and he's coming with some awesome insight here. So we had a discussion yesterday about some of the adventure bits, and I'll read what he says verbatim because it's quite important. So he said, I think the Great Warrior is the face of Flameheart, that I'm almost certain of. I think Flameheart and the Great Warrior are two sides of the exact same coin. One is a noble protector, and one is a selfish dictator. I think the line about the Great Warrior's only challenge being his own reflection, he thinks there's a huge flag there. So, granted, the sort of story is building up to this confrontation between Flameheart and the Great Warriors we'll discuss later on. I think that's quite an apt observation, don't you?
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, I think I heard whispers of this before. And there is a connection indeed with Flameheart. I think we both agree that there is one. We don't know to what extent, but there is a connection. And indeed, in the Heart of Fire novel, it was the Great Warriors against Flameheart. Like we really got that vibe. And now again, we see this with this adventure, and yeah, that reflection to two sides of the same coin. Could be something with that. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, we know Flameheart isn't an ancient. In body,
we do know that.
We do know that in body, he's a pirate through and through. So the sort of theory of the connection is adapted with new lore, hasn't it? So it's not completely ruled out, but we're going more for a soul connection, aren't we now, as the connection between the two, rather than them being exactly the same person.
Or how I saw it, like they are two parts of the same prophecy. Like the prophecy of his resurrection is entwined with the prophecy of the Great Warrior. You can't have one without the other. That's how I see it at the moment.
Yeah, if the Great Warrior is goodness and heroism and strength, Flameheart's destruction and domination and corruption through power. And I think that's going to be a really important parallel to draw upon, especially as the story goes on. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that, but we know there's a connection, and you'll find out why on Sunday. I'll leave it at that.
We might tease a little bit more during this podcast, but that's the first tease.
Yeah, that's it. I'll leave it at that. Watch this space.
So the final tablet that talks about the Legend of the Warrior is about him finding his place among the stars. The Great Warrior had traveled every corner of the Sea of Thieves, but he had needed no home till now. So he asked the king, "Where should I rest?" And the king thought on this, and then he was like, "Hey, I make some stairs appear, and these are countless golden steps." And the king told the warrior, "Climb to the top and take your rest there." Great Warrior ascended to the heavens and took his place among the stars, and he remains there still to guard us while we slumber. But this is a lie. We know from a later tablet that the warrior did not ascend to the heavens at all, because his soul would forever be bound in his bones. He was not even permitted to go to paradise, which we will talk about a bit later on. But he does have a constellation, so there is some truth to the story, since there are indeed stars that make up the constellation of the Great Warrior. And that's all I have to say about this final tablet.
You don't reckon, right? So, not even tinfoil hat theory. The golden stairs is obviously a metaphor into the heavens, but what if there was like a pyramid that he climbed that the ancients had created and he was resting there? So, or his body was put there and he was bound. And that could be the Shrine of Tribute, maybe?
I don't. Because the Shrine of Tribute is where the ancients came to go to paradise, right?
Well, it was a place where they put tribute for the dead, essentially.
Yeah, which I feel also got transported to paradise.
Right, okay. That was just a thought of mine, because it looks like the Shrine of Tribute is sunken in and there was like, it was a bigger structure before, rather than just sinking into the coral, I guess.
Okay, interesting thought. I don't think there's any truth to this at all, except that there is this constellation. I think they had these. I don't know how it started, but maybe they saw the constellation first, or maybe they had a great warrior first, or maybe I don't know. Maybe no. I think they saw the constellation first and were like, "Oh, that looks like a great warrior." Oh, have you heard about a great warrior? That's where this title comes from the great warrior that's still in the stars. And I think that's how the legend came to be.
Fair enough. Well, we know it is a definitely way to explain the constellations, so we'll go with that one.
Indeed. I mean, I think that's the same reason why the patient turtle is also in the legends, right? Because that also came from a constellation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
All right, so let's go to the next shrine, and we'll discuss the Shrine of Tribute. Briefly touched on this. The first step that we find that talks about dreams, about how some ancients were able to put prophecies and foretellings into the minds of the kings and queens of the ancients, and the priests. They wrote them down, looked for portents, looked for potential prophecy, which some of it was bogus, and they tossed it away, and the thing that might be prophecy they wrote down to be useful later. So, what do you feel about this story?
It's interesting that the dreams of the ancients are used to predict the future. And then, obviously, we'll cover that shortly. It sort of turns into the Sea of the Damned when people are contacting them. So, is it possibly like not so much dreams, but they're actually looking into the future through the Sea of the Damned?
Yeah, that's
because we know
yeah.
Belle. That's how Belle's so old. She doesn't age. You don't age in the Sea of the Damned, so that's how she's travelled forward in time. So that could be not so much dreams as they are literally looking at visions through the Sea of the Damned, but in their heads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's also how I read it. Like time is probably really warped in the Sea of the Damned, and they might, see some folds there that where the future is folded for them, so to say, and they catch glimpses of that, and how they imprint it into dreams. I have no idea, but yeah, it feels like that. Yeah,
it could also suggest that Belle is older than we are, but she's not necessarily an ancient, but still went back in time to make the sirens sleep. That could explain it. Because if you can move forward in time, I assume you can move backwards as well.
I guess, well, not according to Einstein.
Yeah, well,
you can travel to the future, but you can't travel to the past. That's how it works.
True, but you can also in Sea of Thieves eat bananas to heal your broken leg.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah, I like this. I think this is my favorite set of tablets. But yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't think it's as simple as time travel, because I think that's quite weak writing, and I generally don't like time travel in stories, especially if it's back and forward anyway. But it does have an element of maybe the dreams aren't necessarily them actually looking at what's happening in the future, like as the Sea of Thieves is, but it's just a vision in the Sea of the Damned as the future, if that makes sense. Like they're not going forward physically, they're just seeing a representation of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I guess that could be. Yeah. And also like these tablets also made me wonder about Belle again, because for a long time we believed she was an ancient. I still believe, like you said, that she is very old. I mean, I think that's stated in the lore quite clearly. And I also believe that she is the first Pirate legend. I still believe that. But the way some tablets talked about her is that she became acquainted with the ancients. So she did not come from that tribe. Is that how you read it as well?
Yeah, although I do think there is an element of the ancients having quite a long history. So, like the whole idea of the Great Warrior being passed down through
Mm-hmm.
generations, and the ones we speak to now and see in the game are the last of the ancients. I think that's quite heavily implied.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah. All right. So the next mural, I was kind of sorry, mural. Next tablet was this was actually the tablet describing that they communicated from the Sea of the Damned. The first tablet was just about dreams, so it was kind of going ahead a little bit. But it made the ancient wonder if they could travel to the Sea of the Damned, like a great road connecting two cities. Yeah, and that's a tablet. They were wondering if they could connect the worlds together, and they eventually they tried, and it took many lifetimes, but they were determined and they succeeded.
Not really much
Um,
else to say on that
not
one.
not really much. No, not really. More when we come to the Veil of the Ancients. We'll get there. All right. So the third tablet talks a little bit more about that. They talk about creating structures in the Sea of the Damned, but also that it was dangerous because if they had a straight thought, it could be disastrous. So travel between worlds was permitted only sparingly. They also used the Sea of the Damned to hide weapons of great devastation, something we see in the Heart of Fire novel. So that was a nice callback, wasn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it also confirms, it's pretty obvious in the book, it also confirms the reason for leaving it behind, the Ophelia.
Care to explain?
Oh, right, sorry. They're just hiding it away because they literally can't trust themselves just in case these weapons fall into the wrong hands. And they're also used to be used in the right hands, so it's almost like sort of linking back to the idea that they have visions of the future, like the Ophelia was placed there for when the Sea of Thieves is under threat.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that could have been one of those prophecies or pretense, like, oh, let's hide this ship for later.
Yeah, and that also explains why the Ophelia resisted cursed cannonballs, and the Burning Blade is the only one to use cursed cannonballs.
Exactly. I love that. That's great. They also brought a temple. Apparently, an entire temple was also cast into the abyss. They say, um, but it was also placed in the Sea of the Damned. And they also talk about one of their king trying to merge the worlds together. And this priest, which I actually also believe we meet this priest in this adventure, you think differently, but I believe the priest from the Legend of the Veil Voyage, who would try to merge the worlds together, is the same priest as being talked about in this tablet.
I think they're different, reason being that this seems to be written by the priest that we encounter in this one, because it sounds like he was sent to find the remains of the Great Warrior, and we obviously know the Veil. Or sorry, he's obviously talking about the guy in Legend of the Veil was in the past, and the guy in
Yes.
Legend of the Veil basically says that he was wrong for doing what he was doing, um,
Yes.
rather than saying that it was him. So yeah, I think they're two different priests.
Well, the one who's writing these tablets is not the one with the Legend of the Veil mask.
How do we know this?
Oh, because he said one of my king even sought to merge the worlds entirely. So I'm just assuming if it is the one with Legend of Veil, he would say, "I tried to merge the worlds," right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the guy who we encounter in this adventure, the one that takes the veil, the pieces of the ancients off of us and wearing the
Uh huh.
veil, is different to the one that we see in Legend of the Veil. But the guy we encounter in this one also wrote these tablets.
Okay, I disagree. But because I don't see the guy wearing the Legend of the Veil in this adventure as the one who wrote the tablets, I think the one with the boar mask or one of those wrote the tablets.
Okay, interesting. That's probably going to be explained later on.
Yeah, maybe. But also, there's only one Legend of the Veil, like it's stated multiple times in the lore that there is only one. So it makes sense that that's the one that tried to merge the worlds together, and it makes sense that if we see another ancient priest with the same mask, that it is the same character.
But then we're going to get into like sort of territory of whether that was a memory or not that was used to part the veil and stuff, which
I agree. I believe that when we light beacons and we see them all praying to that beacon in Legend of the Veil Voyage, I believe those are memories. But when he actually hands you the Veil of the Ancient, like the Veil Stone, I should say, that's when he is a ghost.
right, okay, fair enough.
All right, so I hope everybody can still follow it, the listeners.
It's confusing, isn't it? It is confusing.
It can be a little confusing. We do our best to make ourselves clear. But I'm also guessing that most people that listen to the podcast are into the lore. Or otherwise, we are not the right podcast for you.
Just telling you straight up to fuck off. If you don't want to listen to a lore podcast, don't put us on. No, we're not always about lore, but most of the time, 50-50 at the moment, isn't it?
50-50, indeed, 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the second to last tablet talks again about them bringing all their treasures over, but it was also decided, because the knowledge that all that treasure was there in the Sea of the Damned would obviously cause an upheaval. People wanted to go, people would fight for it, so it was decided that all of them were allowed to go, or none at all. And that's probably what they did.
Well, yeah, if that didn't happen, then, that'd be a right rug pull. If, yeah, we're all going to go to the Sea of Tribute, but that's not actually what happened. And you're like, thanks for that tease. Yeah, they definitely all went, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And we learned from the last tablets that there were some exceptions, like those deemed dangerous or disruptive were left behind. The Eternal Guard was left behind. We don't really know anything about the Eternal Guard, but I think the clue is in the name. A clue at least. And the High Priest also stayed behind. And of course, we now also know that the Soul of the Warrior was not permitted either. So some ancients did stay behind. So let's talk about that. Why do we think the Eternal Guard stayed behind?
Depends. Like, it says those who were deemed dangerous or disruptive, and then as comma, then the Eternal Guard seems to suggest that they're both different. They're different things. That the Eternal Guard aren't disruptive and they're honouring their oath. But I don't know. Like, do you have an idea who the they could
not
be?
really.
Maybe
we
some
don't
of the statues on Tribute Peak sort of represent them.
Yeah, maybe they were sworn to protect certain buildings or templates or temples or some, structures of religious importance, and that they sworn to protect those for as long as they can, and they stayed behind to do just that. Only nobody came, obviously, and then they just died on their post.
What does sort of concern me is, though, they're called the Eternal Guard, but we only know of one way of eternal life as the ancients saw it, is to go to the Sea of the Damned, unless they had another one which turned you into a skeleton. So maybe it's linked with a skeleton curse?
Maybe, because the skeleton curse obviously existed back then, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it's ancient in origin based on the fact that it comes from ancient artifacts.
I could be. Maybe it's some guard we still have to meet. Maybe we've never been to the apartments of the king and queen. Maybe they're guarding that.
Imagine like just skellies, like like in the Tall Tales when you find them around the campfire, and they're just chilling around the campfire with their stupid voices. Oh, I can see that adventure happening soon.
It would be cool. I mean, I'm also sure, like, we hear a lot about the king and queen in these tablets. I feel we will learn more about that, and we will visit more ancient structures in the future.
Yeah, Adventure 16, calling it now.
All right. And the final tablet also talks, and I thought it was just interesting. It talks about the the origin of the Veil of the Ancients. And we know that the Veil stones were actually part of one big stone before, which is nice. It makes me wonder how many Veil stones they could have chipped away from it. I think we talked about this on a previous podcast. Like, I thought it was one stone. So it's nice to have that confirmed. And maybe the eyes of the Gold Hoarder were also from the same stone. What do you think?
I think it all derives from the same stone. They're just cut differently, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like, maybe the Gold Hoarder shaped them so they could fit in his eyes.
Yes.
Rather than, because the mask has 6 slots, doesn't it? And he shaped them to fit his eyes and not the mask slots instead.
Yep. Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It just makes sense. Indeed. Yeah.
I was going to say, what if the Veil Stone, the original one, exists, but it's like in the Sea of the Damned, so no one can make new Veil Stones?
Would make sense to bring it there, right?
Yeah, imagine like this big scene where you enter a room, there's a giant green glowing rock in there, and that's the Veil Stone.
But the Gold Hoarder never traveled into the Sea of the Damned, right? So he probably...
I don't think he chipped them from the original stone. I think he's chipped them from the Veil Stones that were in the mask originally, but they were stored in Tribute Peak. Like, he's cut the square gems to make that sort of diamond shape.
But the stones in the Gold Hoarder skull are bigger than the Veil stones.
I mean, bigger, yeah, that could be a gameplay thing, or like a design thing, but... Well, I suppose they could have been cut that way anyway, but, I don't think they were created by him. I think they were originally for the Veil. We're missing like 3 Veil stones still.
Yeah, maybe. That could also be the case, yeah. But I thought maybe they tried to cut big stones first, and that didn't work. Because they didn't fit, and they threw them in the belly of gold. And then they throw it in the pile. These don't work. Too big. There's not enough juice or whatever. And then, no, we need to make them small and they conduct the energy better or something like that. And then they tried again with the independent Veil stones, and that worked all right.
Possibly. It also could be, like just a bit more retconning or like padding lore out maybe that wasn't intended for the Gold Hoarder before.
Yeah, obviously, because we both agree that the Gold Hoarder having Veil stones was never planned from the beginning.
I doubt it.
Yeah, that came later, but I still like it. So let's go to the final set of tablets, and these are a little bit rehashing the stories we already knew. It talks about, the first meetings between the Ancients and the Merfolk, about, the warrior falling in love with, a warrior falling in love with the Sea Queen. Because they did that, the Whispering Plague, I think it's called, came about that turned the Merfolk into sirens. And once they became the sirens, they became very angry, and they waged war with the Ancients. And also a scratch from a siren could turn other Merfolk into a siren as well. And the Ancients first didn't know of the war between those species going on because it all happened down below. But eventually, the sirens started to resurface and dragging their ships below the water as well. So yeah, that's basically me explaining the first 2 tablets, which we already knew about. Unless you want to add something to that.
No, I don't think there's a whole lot of information in these tablets aside from the sort of reveal. Was it the reveal in this one? Oh, essentially the reason what the priest is meant to do, isn't it? Like what his ancient queen asked him to do, but a lot of it's just sort of repeating information from the Sunken Kingdom.
Yes, yeah, indeed. And that comes later. His mission comes later, which I don't believe it's the priest. I just believe it's some sort of warrior, not the warrior or a warrior, but just a warrior ancient that's on this mission instead of a priest. But whatever. It also talks about Bel a little bit. Bel calls them Merfolk. The ancients probably used a different word for their sea king. Kin without a G. And it also talks a little bit about a prince that fallen overboard when he was just a babe, who was rescued by the Merfolk, which is just some fluff. But also nice to know that the ancient king and queen had also ancient princes.
The merfolk seem very benevolent, don't they? Compared to
Yeah,
the
yes.
sirens and the ancients, they seem like the overall good force.
Yes. Maybe two sides of a coin.
Huh. Well, yeah.
Maybe because the Whispering Plague was also because of the corruption of the warrior's influence, right?
Yeah, so maybe the idea of the warrior going rogue or, not being whole sort of messes with the balance of the Sea of Thieves as well. Considering like
Mm-hmm.
the first warriors deemed as, or sorry, the Grey Warriors sort of deemed like a demigod.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I think
Um. Yeah.
yeah, the first three are pretty like standard lore really. Apart from the notion that the merfolk could have been people before, which is sort of hinted at in some of the lore and sort of not. Like pirates think that the merfolk were pirates before, but the merfolk existed before pirates did. So yeah, we're not really sure what is the truth of that. It's going to come out eventually. It's still like it's
Mm.
sort of teasing the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, because we have seen paintings of normal people transforming into merfolk, right?
Yeah,
Do you reckon that happened really long ago? That some really ancient ancients transformed into merfolk, and then they forgot about their both societies, and then they met again, like generations later, as as sea kin and ancients.
could be the case. Just like the pirates meet with the merfolk when they return to the Sea of Thieves, or when they rediscover the Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, yeah, could be. Yeah,
It's like
interesting.
poetry; it rhymes.
Shut up. All right, so yeah, so the second to last tablet again, very interesting, because this is the one that talks about, the warrior's soul being bounded to the bones, which we alluded to earlier, but it also talks about the sea queen trespassing into the king's reliquary and laying claim to the great warrior's remains. So basically, that's the skull we're finding right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it's weird that like
So
this seems to happen way before our time as well. So maybe before Bell presumably just BTFOs her.
Aye, indeed. So what was the reason the Sea Queen tried to steal the warrior's remains in the beginning? Then.
Could be revenge for what happens to her seeking.
Hmm. Maybe she believed there was some power in it that could make her Sea King whole again.
Possibly, or use his power to extract the soul or something like that. It does seem to imply that I don't know, she is called the Sea Queen at the time, not the Siren Queen, so maybe that's actually what kicked it off. And the when that happened, the ancients were like, "We're going to kill your husband for that. How dare you?"
Oh yeah, it's also interesting. She's called Sea Queen, not Siren Queen.
It is also like they refer to as the Sea Queen throughout that, but that could just be the Siren Queen's name. Sorry, that could be how they call the Siren Queen.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Plus, also it happened really quickly then, right? Because you call something the Sea Queen for all your life, and then she transforms into a siren. Like you're not gonna start calling her Siren Queen after that. It takes a few years before you start doing that.
Well, especially if she's just the Sea Queen, but to us she's the Siren Queen. Is like
Mm-hmm.
pirates versus ancient culture. So
Mm.
it happened before our time, and I think it happened obviously before the war. But whether it happened before the Sea King's murder or after is really not clear.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we don't know for sure, and at this moment, no. But it's interesting to think about.
Unless she knew the soul was bound to the body, and maybe she was using that as a means to reverse the chest's magic.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. And I was thinking, but obviously, it didn't work
Well, we don't
because
know, do we? Could have done.
yeah, but don't you think the soul of the warrior that fell in love with the Sea Queen isn't this in the chest of everlasting sorrows?
Possibly. With sort of rare, sometimes they do make slip ups and sometimes they retcon things. I just find it really weird that he's such a big character and his soul's just in a box, sold to the gold hoarders.
Yeah, but that is the lore with cursed chests, isn't it? There's souls in there. That's why they're cursed.
Not really. Yes, no, because there's chests of rage without souls in them, and Ramsey managed to create cursed chests without souls in Athena's
Yes.
Fortune.
Yeah, I'm not gonna argue with you. That's true.
So it's again unclear. I know the chest of rage has the Black Witch crew in it, but I don't think a chest of rage needs to have souls in it for it to turn people into Ashen Lords.
Is it still raging when it's emptied of souls in that tall tale?
I think so, but based on Flameheart's plan for Stitcher Jim, seems like he needed souls for something specific about it.
Yeah. Can't wait to find out the ending to that story.
It's only 2 years, 8 months, and 11. No, I don't know the exact time. At the time of recording, it's the 20th of September, so it's like what, 2 years and 6 months? Yeah, 2 years and 6 months. Yeah,
it's fine. We got adventures now, right? Don't worry.
Yes. Thank you. Please, anything like a dribble of Stitcher Jim lore, please, sir.
But anyways, the Sea Queen did steal, the Great Warrior Spirit, and back then a ancient, could be a priest, could be a no-named warrior, like I think, was set out to recover those remains. Didn't work. Then they all departed to the Sea of the Damned, and then the stranger Belle came, and she said, "Well, you didn't look well enough. we're in a different era now. Let's try again." And we do, and that's also where the adventure starts. I think this is the moment after the cinematic trailer that she went to the ancients to ask for help, and there she was like, "All right, we need to solve the warrior. We need it now. Let's go."
Yeah. It's sort of annoying how we have to do all the work, and apparently whenever we do something, the job gets done. Like, no one can do anything without our help in the Sea of Thieves.
But it is a video game.
True. Best not to think about these things. I just hope I hope when Flameheart's back, he's not like, go do this for me. He's like, you guys stay here. I'm going to go sink some ships.
I mean, it's a bit weird because the ancients are also in the shrines and they're just standing there instead of exploring themselves. But like I mentioned before, it's a video game. It's fine.
True. It would be boring if we stood around and waited for all the main characters to do stuff.
Aye, indeed. So those are all the tablets. Unless you want to mention something about the lore still.
No, I think we've covered it, to be honest with you.
All right. So what do you think will happen now? Now that the soul of the warrior is in the Sea of the Damned?
That is a good question. Well, apparently we're going to cross paths with him. I think Rare's very deliberate in saying that. Like Ramsey said, we'll use the Veil again at the end of Legend of the Veil. So that's based on that, like 3 months' time. Like maybe Adventure 10, we'll go back to the Sea of the Damned, or Adventure 12, and we'll see the Great Warrior.
Maybe.
He's obviously going to tussle with Flameheart, isn't he? It's quite funny though that like Athena's Fortune's like, oh, we've got to stop Flameheart from being resurrected, and they do all these things, and Flameheart still keeps coming back, and they're like, we're just going to use like a god against him. Like, surely we can't lose this time. And I think based on the writing, that it's not going to work because they're not going to bring. I hope they're not going to bring Flameheart back just for him to be killed by a god, and then it's just like, oh, what a waste of 12 adventures.
Yeah, I think. I mean, it's going to take a while before Flameheart is fully resurrected, I think. And maybe there will be an adventure or a tall tale, probably a tall tale that would have us defeating him, maybe. I can very much see him not dying at all in the entire spawn of Sea of Thieves, actually. Because, we have the Reapers, and they're not going to quit the Reapers. Like, that faction will remain. Will it remain without Flameheart or with Flameheart, or... I don't know. I have no idea what they planned.
I do really think they're going to use something to redeem him, or, make him less insane. Maybe merging his soul as whole, something like that. And he'll be more of an anti-hero, and Athena's Fortune and the Reaper's Bones will team up to defend the Sea of Thieves against the GMU, because that's like a typical, like, almost like Pirates of the Caribbean World's End scenario, and we know the developers love that. So, yeah, and like, I think... in terms of grayness scale, you have Athena's Fortune that are good, Reaper's Bones that are bad, Dark Brethren who are worse, and GMU who might be the worst of them all. So I don't think we need 3 bad factions. I think Reaper's Bones will be nudged as more like a grey faction. They're already quite grey, Flameheart aside.
Yeah. I think maybe the captain will be the final boss and will be the big bad of the seas, and Flameheart will be just a lesser bad, just like the Dark Brethren.
I think they've used too much hype. It's been like 5 years, and the build up for him just to be offed. And I think Rare realised he's such a fan favourite, just sort of like Ramsey and Bell and and Pendragon, that they don't want to get rid of him and Merrick's another one. And nothing really died in the Sea of Thieves anyway, so think of that how you will.
I'm just thinking that it could have been misread prophecy, and that the Great Warrior will actually be the cause of his resurrection instead of the stop of it.
Hi guys, thanks for freeing me. Oh, you're gonna fight that fiery skeleton dude? No, I'm here to bring him back. Did you not get the memo? Like, look, he's back now.
I mean, because maybe the Great Warrior is hungry for battle, and he needs a vessel to give his powers to, and who is better than Flameheart for that?
God,
I mean, I don't know.
Imagine they do it again, like, how we tricked you again. I was like, oh god, how did we not see this coming? We've been tricked for the 5th time this year.
Well, interesting. That's a nice segue, because we do see the Reaper Parrots, having a lock, and they do attack us, and we do defeat them, but could have been a ruse.
Yeah, like, they always show up at the last minute, just like, yeah, don't do that. But if they really wanted to stop them, they could send, like, any manner of people to recover the remains. Just like just like the Legend of the Veil and the Veil Stones, because they already were in possession of 2 of them. So it usually, when they show up last minute, like Shrouded Islands, it's a trap. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, could have been a trick, maybe. We'll see. Like, I think the Great Warrior is not going to defeat Flameheart, and how it will pan out exactly, we'll just have to wait and see.
I think this arc, maybe with Adventure 9, might have that epic confrontation between the two, and it may stifle his resurrection, but I think it's going to be like a step closer. So I think it's going to be almost like a Pyrrhic victory for the Reapers. Otherwise, if we go through all this and Flameheart's so close to resurrecting and he just gets pushed back to step 1, we're literally like the last 9 adventures meant nothing.
Or he dies and Junior takes over the Reapers.
God, imagine when they said, imagine that book, Tales from the Sea of Thieves, it's like Junior becomes the new Flameheart, like proper then. That would be cool.
Foreshadowed.
Foreshadowed, yeah.
Because his name was Flameheart all along.
Yes, it was I am Captain Flameheart, just like from the book. No! How did we not see this coming again?
One thing about the ending, well, 2 things about the ending. The skull of the Great Warrior has a red spot. Have you seen that?
Yes, we saw that, didn't we, when we like zoomed in with our spy glasses during the combat.
Indeed. So do you think that means anything? It reminded me a little bit of the spot of the Gold Order, who has that triangle symbol. Sorry.
It sort of reminds you of War Paint, where the warrior is depicted as red on the sails for the reward.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Sort of signifying that he likes red war paint. Do you know who else is associated with the color red?
Santa Claus.
Exactly. December adventure coming soon. The decision is whether the Sea of Thieves characters have been naughty or nice.
The other part is because we stole the Sirens' prize. We stole their prize. We stole the soul they wanted. So will the Sirens react to this?
In about 6 months' time, maybe?
Yep, that's exactly what I think.
Yeah, the Sirens, what are they going to do? Like, send ocean crawlers? Like, yeah, they will react to it. Maybe they'll alliance with Flameheart. It makes sense. But I guess they're still with the Dark Brethren, so... Yeah, the Siren Queen's sort of alliance isn't very clear. But it would make sense for her to ally with Flameheart. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Can we talk about mystery?
Yeah, why not? Like, if spoilers to the mystery, by the way, you've had your warning. Let's go.
So, well, is she defeated during the end of the mystery?
No. She wasn't defeated the first time. If people think those rocks, like, killed her, the Siren Queen, after we, like, pushed her shit in before, she's not dead. They're not going to bring her back just to kill her, unless it's the Gold Hoarder. That's sort of a meme at this point. No, I don't
Yeah,
think she's dead again. Just some rocks in it.
I agree with you. Because there's no other face for the Sirens at the moment. Maybe her daughter will take over. We don't know. But
The Kraken.
the Kraken. Oh yeah, the Kraken.
I have to
will take
translate
over.
her speech in subtitles.
I mean, that's also really interesting that the Siren Queen can talk and the rest of her king sings a song of hatred, but not she. She can talk. She probably learned it from her warrior lover. But yeah, I believe the same. I don't think she's dead. We need to see a body. We need to eat some fish sticks made of siren flesh before I believe that she's really dead.
You could literally grind her into powder and I'd say she's not dead. Like, this is Sea of Thieves.
Because her soul is still in the Sea of the Dead, boys. Anything can happen.
But you can also release people from their remains, so like there's literally no way to kill anyone in the Sea of Thieves.
But either way, I think stealing the treasure from them will have consequences, and we will see the Siren Queen again.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right, so let's now go to the message in the bottle, the rest of the messages. This is a segment of the podcast where our listeners can send in their own questions and we will answer them. If you want to send in your own questions, you can join the Salty Hippo Discord. Link will be in the YouTube description. So, the first question comes from Torumsu, and he actually wrote an entire novel, which I don't really like, but it's fine. Just keep in mind that make it one simple question we can do instead of an entire script I need to read. Because he doesn't really like Belle. He thinks she's overused. We've done too much adventures with Belle this time. And so his question is she overused, or we still like to work for her for the rest of the year and a half of adventures?
Oh, you're waiting for me to answer?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Is Belle overused?
Yes, but no, like, she's a new character and we've been waiting like 5 years plus for her to come into the game. Probably more like 7. And I like her because she's fresh, but it's also a bit annoying that she's always involved until it counts. Like, like with us saving Merrick, she was too busy trying to save the world when she basically owes Merrick a favor. Bit of a dick like that. And I also think she keeps her cards close to her chest for no reason, just for the sake of it, just for like unraveling sort of plot points. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
I like Belle. I like her as a character. I like her design. I like her voice actor. So there you go, whoever the voice actor is, not everyone dislikes you. But yeah, like, if she wasn't in the next adventure, I wouldn't miss her at this point because we've had so much of her. So yes and no. I can't really pick a side with that one.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same. Like, you have to keep in mind that Belle is a character that was announced before the game came out. And when the game came out, we did not see her. And it took a very, very long time for her to be in the game. And the first time she made an appearance was with the first adventure. And at this moment, I'm not sick of her at all. I think it's great that she's in the game. And there is so much more to her character that I want to explore. However, same as you, if she's not there for the next arc, I'm also fine with it because we also have other characters, and it doesn't need. I don't want her to turn into the adventure lady.
That's Lorena's job. God,
that's Lorena's job indeed. So in that regard, I do agree with you. But I'm not sick of her at all. Through soon, just a little bit, but not in the way you are.
I think I would more like to see. I know Ramsey's in the book, and we get quite a lot of him, but I love his character. And every time the Pirate Lord shows up, is always a treat. This sounds weird from a massive Flameheart supporter, but like the mystery and like Legend of the Veil and all these things, even Hunter's Cry, it was great. And Clive, I can't remember his name now. Clive. Oh, His voice actor's really good. I'm really sorry, Clive. I forgot your last name. His performance is always fantastic. So more Ramsey would be nice, and more Pendragon as well. Pendragon's such a good character, and he's never used. So like, don't rest on your laurels and use all the characters we have. And Bell is yet to sort of earn that place for me as one of those cool characters that I want to see all the time.
Mm-hmm. I do wish we saw some more characters from the Flameheart side, because they only have Flameheart and Flameheart Junior, and that's about all.
Yeah, and like none of the characters are really fleshed out. Even the book doesn't flesh them out; it just adds new ones, and doesn't really flesh them out a whole lot. So
yeah,
give us old Horatio lore, damn
it. Indeed.
Show me him building some skeleton ships in a tall tale. Sorry, in an adventure. You just have to get wood for him, and he just tells you funny jokes that are all fire puns.
All right. Next question comes from Ewalsh. Does this end the Great Warrior equals Flameheart theory? He's definitely not the Sea Queen, and he can't be the Great Warrior since we just freed his soul. Unless, of course, Flameheart is just the next in the line of warriors. So, my answer to this is wait till Sunday.
I would just say, does this end the Great Warrior equals Flameheart theory? Depends what you mean by equals. I'll say no more on the topic.
Hi. Make sure you tune in Sunday.
No, Ewalsh, no. But you'll see. We're not going to spoil it. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Question after that comes from Captor Jägner. It looks like the Sea of Thieves adventure story is aiming towards typical good versus evil kind of conflict. Do you think there's a possibility we will get Reaper's side of the story in adventures just like we did in Lost Sands? And he follows it up with, will Ancients become another faction on the seas, or will they join Athena's fortune?
Yes, it is going to a good versus evil conflict. No, we won't get a Reaper's perspective based on the aims of the writers. And last question is, no, we won't get another Ancients faction, but they will sort of be part of Athena's fortune.
Yes, and I agree with that, but I also want to add that I would love to have adventures from the bad guy's perspective. We only got a taste of it in the Lost Sands update.
Yeah.
And I want to see more. I mean, I'm generally a good guy. I always, when I can choose, I choose the good guys. But that doesn't mean I want to explore the bad guys. I mean, they're also interesting. So give me a mission where I'm working for Flameheart Jr. or another character that gets introduced. I would love it.
I think Lost Sands would have been better off as Adventure 6, and we had 2 Reaper adventures. But like we're sort of tricked into listening to what the Servant of the Flame has to say rather than directly working with him. But yeah, I don't think we're going to get some complexity. I think they have moved towards this good versus evil sort of vibe, and I'm not really here for it, but I will still be a Reaper till the end, just to commit.
Indeed, it is on the surface level. It is good versus evil, and there's some nuance in it, but don't expect too much, I would say.
I agree. Yeah.
And the last question comes from Firebird NZ, and his question is about hippos, but again, you will find out Sunday if there will be hippos in Sea of Thieves. So, thanks again to those that submitted their questions, and again, make sure to join the Salty Hippo Discord if you want to submit your own. I always post an announcement when we are close to recording a new episode. I also want to remind our listeners that this podcast is also on Spotify and Amazon Music, so if that's more convenient for you, you can listen to us there. Keep in mind that new episodes premiere on YouTube first and will be on Spotify and Amazon a few days or weeks later. And you can also follow us on Twitter at BestCOT Podcast. Link to that is in the description. So, we have come to the end of the podcast, and I want to thank my wonderful co-host for being amazing. And can you tell our listeners where they can find your content?
Yeah, of course. Just type in AShinyRay on YouTube at the search bar, and my video should come up then.
Make sure you do, and you can find me on YouTube at Captain Blubber. Just type in Captain Blubber and you will find me. So make sure you give this podcast a thumbs up, that's always appreciated, and let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments. So that's it, thanks for listening, have fun on the seas, and steal some treasure.
Take care guys, bye.